it's just a matter of unseating the chips and reseating them because there's, oxide built up where it's not making contact.
Right.
It could be that simple.
Wow.
So-
You got all that stuff in climate control storage somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I got your book down in my car.
Yeah, I'll have one or both of them on display if everything goes well with this vintage fair that we're going to put on in February.
That you're going to do
We'll
over
see.
there?
Yeah, the CompUSA
Tagged all, I don't
space.
even have to go through the whole thing.
Well, I was talking to
But depending on these, already because of these auctions, I'm probably going to have a policeman standing there.
Second on 12. This is our regular meeting, not one of our other meetings. The first thing is to approve the agenda, and all I'd like to do is add one thing under discussion, under between 7 and 8. I'd like to discuss the engagement of the town planners after the discussion on board organization. Can I get a motion to approve, or does anybody else have anything to add to it?
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I sent y'all an email. I don't know if everybody's read their email. Rich DiPolito's going to be dropping by around 4:30, and at that point, we're going to stop whatever we're doing. He has a few minutes, and we need to get some information from him on that. So the next thing is the approval of the minutes of September 4th. And the special call meetings September 19th, 24th, and 27th. They're attached. I've looked at them. I'm okay. Would anybody like to make a move that they're approved?
Why is 3 not have anything next to it? The numbering is weird.
Meeting of September 4th.
That's just a straight number of these are numbers. Should be number, the next motion should be number 3 down to 10 instead of 11. 10 instead of 11. 22 and 4 is a
Dave,
straight
it looks like we're
3.
going to have a repeat. Mims and Schmidt were excused from the meeting.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve these, or do you want to look at it?
I'll leave it, I guess.
The other two,
I'll move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next thing is the approval of the executive session minutes. Stephanie, can we do that later? I'm going to do that later. We'll probably go into closed session later. We could do that then.
So you want to, there's some things on, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make, I guess I could just pass them around.
Yeah, that's what we're
I've
looking
not
for.
done that before. So maybe I'll go ahead and start these.
Okay. So you're passing minutes around
Yep.
and we're discussing during the executive session.
Correct. The next thing would be the treasurer's report. Okay.
We have a bank balance of $1,661.55. And
Soon to increase. Soon to increase.
yes, so thus far we've got income of $1.47 in interest. And
How'd you get that much on
Actually, that's
$3,000?
pretty good, yeah.
like 19 cents a month. So buy a cup of coffee, we can split it. Right? And expenses of $4,294. Just to recap, our D&O insurance, the fees to the attorney, and this training session I just spent. So that's the extent of our spending at the moment.
Can you go over that webinar opportunity?
Yeah, let me go over one thing. I realized when I got the account thing this month that we're on an interest with checking. I don't think we'll probably have this issue, but I just brought it up. So we got hit with a $12 service charge because $2,500 is the minimum. I just found out what the minimum is, and so we'll probably. I would recommend we probably stay there. If we get down to 1,000, we wouldn't have any service charges. But I think we're going to be above $2,500 most of the time, and there's a little bit of interest that would be thrown off. So even though we have this one fee, we ought to be past that going forward, and we'll just be aware of the $2,500 going forward. So, but it did catch us because I just didn't know it.
Just so you guys know, that is on the agenda for council's October 8th meeting to officially approve our budget and our, which I need to talk to you about. You said you're leaving. Or did you need to leave early today? It was long.
5:15.
Okay.
If that's early, yeah, 5:15.
We just need to do a budget breakdown.
Okay.
And that was the one email, Stephanie, I didn't get out to you, was to find out what we had to start with as far as the budget breakdown, how we did that 80.
Okay, yeah, we have that.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it for a while.
And we can get together, because we need to
Okay.
get that to Kayla.
Okay.
But both of those things, both that and the master plan funds, will be go before council on the 8th.
Other than that, there's nothing else to report from the treasurer.
Except your webinar.
Okay.
I'm kind of including it in the same.
Okay,
you paid
including
for
the
it
same
there.
thing. Yeah, we, there's an organization, CDFA, I'm trying to remember what it stands for, Certified Development Finance Agencies. Essentially, it's a group of professionals that are in the economic development business. And so this is their educational side, and so I get emails from them. There's a webinar that came up that's I thought was a pretty good one, and I'll shoot you all the agenda. But just to give you an idea, it's coming up on December 12th and 13th. It's a noon to 5, both days, so it's 10 hours. You know, you can look at the agenda and come and go as you wish. But I split it with the RBA, so $675, and we paid half, and they paid half. So we'll have an opportunity to probably see if we can get this room, Stephanie. Is that what we're going to do? Or?
Yes, I've already got it.
Yeah, so we'll set it up, and we can all learn about PPP. You know, it's basically a public-private partnership focus.
What day is that?
December 12th and 13th, 12 to 5. Basically, it'll go over, you know, public-private partnerships, the players involved, how you move through the market feasibility and finance analysis process for that, how you monetize various income streams and availability of payments, how you do valuation assessments, revenue stream development, contract negotiations, terms of a typical public-private partnership agreement, bankability, construction, risk assessment, so forth. So I thought there's a PPP2, which really gets, you know, PPP3 too, which gets into some greater detail. But I thought at the stage we're at now, it'd be a good primer for all of us to sort of go through the basics of how some of these things are happening, and certainly give us a lot as we sit with Dan and others to be conversant in the language of a lot of this kind of stuff. So anyway, we set it up. It's education for us, and it sounded like it was a pretty good webinar. So anyway, put that on your calendar, and if you can make it, that'd be great.
And you can come in and out if you need to on that.
Yeah, it's just a webinar.
Just a webinar,
there's
so you're just watching.
Yeah, we'll just have it set up here on the screen.
And true to form, I kind of get buzzing trying to get through this because we've got a lot on the plate. But Selena, thank you for being here, and Nancy and Betty, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your presence here, guys. And eventually, I just get buzzing on that. We really appreciate it a lot. The secretary's report. Do we have anything? Nothing. The discussion on board organization. If you, I sent this out, and we just kind of touch on a couple hot items like this. What I'd like to we're trying to think about how we can break down all the work we have before us. We have a lot, we all know we have a lot on our plate. And then there's the everyday things of developing the DDA that we want to do, that we really need to start putting in place. Can you scroll down a bit? No, go down. Yeah, where that. You all have seen the ones, and it's on the sheet you got. I added some more after I did that. This is from the Norcross DDA that Nancy had forwarded to me, so I just kind of dropped them in place. Those were actually titles of who would be in charge of market and asset development, workforce and entrepreneurial development. But I dropped them in here just so we could see and make sure we're not missing anything in some of the way I laid it out up top. And again, it was really, I did this to start a framework on some of these, because of the way we're set up with the SEDP and RBA's involvement, and that's evolving. A lot of these things fall in their category. The workforce and entrepreneurial development, we're not doing that. Economic development, we don't do it as directly as they do, but of course we look at everything through that lens. But just so you have up there some of the other things that other DDAs are looking at. I put it up into 7 main categories: communication and coordination. It's actually finance. I used to have funding expert. Not that I'm taking you down from expert today. It's just finance sounded.
Either one.
Private-public partnership. That's also, that's not only the, I see those two. When we get into a really complicated private-public partnership, it's going to be finance. It's going to be putting therefore 4 of the members really engaged on that. Property intelligence initially. That is just keep documenting and keeping up with what's going on in all of the properties within the Downtown Development Authority's area. We've started with what Charles did, which is phenomenal, and now we're just expanding that and growing that and kind of keeping up growing that database into other areas. The data interface PR, there's got to be a better name for this, and this is where I'd really like some input between that and local outreach. Under data interface is keeping up our website, keeping our data out there. Getting public relations is kind of the face out to public, whereas local outreach is really working with facade. The way I was initially thinking about it was facade easement, facade programs, working with maybe neighborhood groups as far as their interests as things go on. Establishing a Main Street program, for example, that would be under there. Advocacy opportunities would be there. Audit and compliance and assurance, that's just kind of given. So for me, the two categories, and these are just, it's a somewhat casual element, but it's really where these members would be really responsible for developing that area of the board. We have a wealth of volunteers and people who have stepped up, who either wanted to be on the DDA, who have been involved in SEDP, who have lots of talents to bring that we can. It's not like when you see your name up there, that's like you have to do it. It's part of it is just bringing in the right talent we have within the city. So someone please come up with a better name than data interface. I'm so sorry, just couldn't come up with that. But if anybody has a better one, what I'd like to see is we need a website. We need a website for our meeting agendas, for our meeting minutes, just something as simple as that. But as things happen in the city that we want to promote, and but if there's facade programs that we develop, that needs to be out there. Just it'll be the DDA space to the public. Lonnie, you're on that. You okay with that?
If I know
You
what
and
it
Charles?
is, if I understand what it is.
Yeah. And again, y'all can take this, and I mean, if the better idea, give feedback. If the better idea would be to put
We'll make it into something good.
Well, you know.
Think of a name.
Since you're on both of those, it could be David, Charles, and Lonnie, and you three just work on those two things, and we blend it together more of a little bit of a,
What about external affairs?
external affairs? External affairs. But I was looking at today, and I saw,
It sounds like CIA.
yeah. External affairs.
That'll work.
It's okay, we're internal affairs.
Yeah.
So you want to take those two things, and put them
Blend them together, yeah. And again, if you could go down a little bit again. Oh, you're doing that. Actually, can you merge those two cells, G and F and G?
Just in the title above.
Just in the title, yeah.
So.
F1 and G1.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No?
No, just highlight both of those. Okay,
Yeah.
now.
Why did you do that? I forgot.
Format.
There's no format.
Format cells, just right-click them. And then go down to format cells.
I could do this later.
This is an old enough copy, this is an old enough copy that I actually know how it works. Border, go to the middle border. There you go.
What?
No, it's not there. Go back to alignment. Go down to merge cells under text control.
I'll just do it later.
But
No, you just
You
did it.
did it.
You just did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of these I'd like to look at, just get your, marketing, promotions, and outreach would be in there. Would be under external affairs.
I take it we're not going to be on the city's domain, we're going to be our separate domain.
Right.
At the very least, we're going to need the link.
Oh, yeah. No, you
Oh,
can
sure.
have a place on the city website that people can go to your site.
Okay, so we're going to link, but it's going to be a different domain, just like everything else is separate. Or could it be part of, could we work with the city, give us space on their website? That would be so much simpler and more
Yeah.
robust.
I think if you, yeah, or, I'll find out the parameters. I think there's some.
There's an economic development page, why don't we just
That's
take over
going
that
away.
page?
Yeah, that's,
Why don't we just
but
take it over?
Yeah, that's
should-
true.
What is the SED?
But that should feed into RVA probably then.
You know what?
There'll probably be a landing
Is that
page
CDP,
there.
or they do, whatever that is, becomes
Yeah.
their name now?
Yeah,
That
I mean,
we
I would
be
think we'll have to have
component of
some kind of an economic development, but maybe that page on the city's website has DDA, RVA, and,
That's really a lot
here's
better. An example I'll give you is my church decided, when the internet first came up, to do their diocese decided to do their youth on a separate web page, and it made it like the youth weren't part of the diocese.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just
yeah.
like, this was bad at so many levels.
Kids, get out of here.
Yeah. And now, you can sometimes help with the landing page, but it's better if it's the same domain. There's so many things on the city web, pardon?
I don't know, if, they don't do it with the CBD, so I'm not sure.
Oh, they
Yeah.
don't? Is it a different
But
domain?
it's a link, you can get a link over, right?
Oh, yeah, there are
Yeah.
links.
I
but
think
that
a
doesn't
link
mean
would
it's on the
be-
same.
If you go to, what's that thing that my website's on now? Everybody goes to it. It's an easy free website template kind of thing.
Not GoDaddy.
I think I know what you're
It's not
talking
a
about.
domain, it's a actual content.
No, I have it on, I think I have it on my iPhone.
Craigslist? No.
Well, Lonnie and I will talk with our children and come back to y'all with a suggestion.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Roswell on the
webpage,
go?
you go, there's a, yeah,
Roswell on the go.
there's free places you can do it in.
So it's-
Okay, so it's
It's got some,
the three of us going to work on that?
there's, and what's, I'm not sure it's having a slightly separate, like we're advocating for something that's going on in the city, being somewhat separate may give it more, could give it more weight, otherwise it's coming from the same voice. Just thinking, this was my thought on that. Liaisons with other boards, the only thing, when I looked at that one, I kind of chuckled, I went, well, we have people on, I guess we each do that, we really don't.
Built in.
Built in.
Yeah.
Again, economic development, that's just part of what we do. Finance goes in finance, operations is more in communication and coordination, which I guess is internal affairs. It's that kind of, maybe, or organization, well, anyway, operations. Workplace and entrepreneurial development doesn't really fit. Market and asset development. Would that be under property intelligence?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. I thought these were just good. I mean, when Nancy sent them to me.
Sorry.
What?
She's 3 steps back.
It was
but that's
bothering
okay.
me, but I solved it, so I'm happy. Go ahead.
And organizational regulatory development, I mean, that really kind of ends up on with the chair and the vice chair as far as keeping up with what we're supposed to be doing. So anyway.
But as things change in the environment, I mean, rules and regulations come out, someone who kind of keeps abreast of that kind of thing.
Stephanie? Would you do that?
Me and your attorney, they'll let you know too.
Yeah, exactly. And just a pause. I am just, for our attorney acquisition team, thank you so much. Dan was just, it's been great. So
He's amazing.
Thank you. I know that was not an easy road, but wow, it's just going to be great. So we can develop these. I'd love to have, wherever you're assigned, and again, if you don't want to, I've kind of talked to folks, I think everybody's okay with where they are. We can shift some of this around. Like with the finance, my thought with the finance and the private-public partnership, that those two would be together, so there'd be a lot of interplay there. Because if we were to take on a catalytic project, for example, or need funding, that's going to be a lot of work. And that doesn't mean you have to take the whole thing. I mean, we're all here. So it just means someone needs to be up with what's going on and coordinating everything, telling and bringing in the help that we need. Any feedback, guys?
I like the way that the left side's sort of internal and the right side is sort of external, to the extent that audit and insurance is an external thing,
Yeah.
I think, which in reality it is.
Yeah, good point.
So, and then property intelligence kind of bridges right between, so that's nice. And I think having it kind of organized that way allows us to change in the future.
Shift it or come up with better titles. And, I'm going to add some of this stuff on and just kind of do some more. Obviously, I all figured out that I like colors. But the lighter green is, shows yellow up there, but it's really light green, there's some involvement, whereas the dark green is responsible. You end up being responsible. Or it's a direct involvement. So.
Well, and I'll just comment on the finance and public-private partnerships. I think there's two things that we're working there. One is the relationship with whoever the parties are that are wanting to do a project, and the other is sort of the details of getting into the finance structure and mechanism and the legal aspect and so forth. So, once we're out of the front end, and whether that's Ralph or Lonnie or myself, I'm not sure Richard, I see too much on the front end side with the relationship, that you're really trying to understand the nature of the project, understand the model it's trying to operate under, understand the gaps, and understand does it fit with the comprehensive plan and where we're going, and not that we're acting as a zoning body, but we're trying to say if we're going to throw our DDA weight behind a project, we're going to want to like it. And we're going to like it for the benefit of the city and what we know and all that. So you know, in the early stages, there's going to be a larger group, I think, that deals with that. And then once we get the project defined and the gaps, then it's, and this is where Richard and I would see we go and try and sit down and start working pro formas and models and, you know, a lot of it through the developer themselves with some guidance, but still be the liaison where we're going to rely on, say, a Dan McCray or a bond, you know, a bond maker, you know, to say, all right, here's what we can come up with that could work. So it's a little bit of that back and forth. And
But
so,
if you were example of doing something with the arts, I mean, you know, what if y'all would be a contact person, the go-to, you know, someone who's coordinating that?
well,
managing
that's a
that
good example. We already
relationship?
have one around the downtown development area where we've broken it up into our 4 categories. That's sort of another matrix that doesn't fit this one necessarily, kind of on a different plane, I guess. So we've chosen to take that project and divvy it up. And I guess if we're saying, what do we have? We have private land, public land, arts, and the War Memorial, sort of our
Right.
4 big categories. I'm not even sure where to fit those in this matrix here.
Well, we're information gathering right now, so that's where,
Yeah.
that shows how we
So
can
all
be
just sort
flexible
of-
on that, yeah.
We went there because that was kind of our
Efficient.
relationships or whatever.
Due diligence.
Yeah, yeah, so.
That's our mantra.
So there is an element in this that is maybe a missing box that relates to, you know, a project that we're responding to, such a private one versus a public-public project, which the Square concept is more of a public project that we're being charged to more drive it as opposed to be responsive to an opportunity. So I'm not sure where, that's maybe the box that's kind of missing
And that may
here.
be the unique situations that come up that we kind of, there's going to be conflicts of interest, there's going to be other components in that.
Right.
You're right, I mean, but even in that, if it has a financial, what are you laughing?
Your next door neighbor.
He just went over to check the thermostat, so I was starting
Not
going
me.
like this. And and he left because he's freezing.
But there's a financial element, there's a financing element of that. And so, for example, we would look to you and Richard when we got down to that place.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That would,
We're still in this project formation stage with our public, which could turn into a public-private.
correct.
We don't know who the private is going to be yet. So right now, it's more design.
The other thing,
concept.
under the private-public partnership, I'll flip that around.
Yeah,
Do we do that
It's
public-private?
public-private, not, it's usually.
Obviously, that's the way from my brain. But the other thing is, we have talked about, you know, getting patrons in the city involved in some of this stuff. There's going to be some opportunities that we could really give them an opportunity for a prominent position in some of this new development. And that's the other thing would be is like setting up a program on how we interface and how we can network and identify who those people are.
There's one here.
Well, yeah, we.
Ralph's doing that.
Oh.
Yeah.
But we did get some, you know, even at the broker luncheon, you know, for the RBA, we got, you know, probably 5 people that wanted to, you know, be a part of something. So we've got a foundation for that.
We can harness the energy of Roswell. Weird.
Set.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think I think the excitement's building that people are going to want to do that. They're going to, you know, they're going to want to hitch their wagon to that star. You know, they might.
It becomes a good.
I think another thing well, I guess we can feel it out as we go, but we're going to have to get to this discussion about once some heavy lifting gets really going, you know, how because we have Stephanie and to a degree of help, and I think I'm not totally clear about where the line starts and stops and all your other responsibilities and all that, but
We're making it up as we
you know,
go.
what is our staff availability, internal within the city,
Turn that stuff.
external that we can use with our budget for limited consulting or hourly work or whatever. Obviously, our legal is going to be one of our heavy components that we pay for
Here.
advice on. So I guess maybe that's a clarity. Are you?
I think right now it's my major job function.
So we have 35 year 40 hours a week, or do we have 20 hours a year 30?
I mean, there's
40?
some other projects that come up.
Okay.
And LCI projects and opportunities and applications,
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Project-based. That's,
I guess we have to get clarity is, can we assign things to you? That's the question, because we don't have a direct line of authority.
that might be in the discussion with Alice.
Okay, I mean, I think we need to,
Yeah.
I think it would help us immensely
That, we'll
to be
do that,
clear.
so you won't be put in a
Yeah,
hard situation,
yeah, so we
okay?
know what the boundaries are.
Two things. Number one, I think it's really good to have one board member who is the liaison with you in terms of work assignments and asking for stuff so that you don't get more than one person talking to you. Like if I think
That's
it's
a
a good
good
idea,
idea.
and then Ralph thinks that something else is a good idea, and we both are calling you. we can
I
get
tend to
confused.
try to copy
Sure.
Monica on things.
Absolutely, and that's what I was
I would
going to
say,
say.
yeah.
So she knows everything that's going on.
The other thing that I've seen on boards that is secret for the long-term success of a board is continuity. Bringing along those people that will be replacing us as we rotate off or something like that. but
Succession planning.
Some sort of succession, which using these volunteers properly, we can really do.
Absolutely.
So,
And you can set up a matrix of the skills that you need using this as a framework. And then, you can do a pretty quick analysis of who has those skills on the board right now, and you can see pretty quickly where the holes are and what you need the next person.
finding an extroverted real estate broker is really hard.
But we
But
we
not
went
one
through
that
the
smiles
list
a lot.
of applicants, and we had a lot of certain categories, and we really didn't have, and anybody who we interviewed, I think will remember, we're like, so what have you done for marketing? Because we really didn't have that overtly in the list, but I think everybody's had to do some of that in some form, so that may be something.
That's good.
And I think it's going to be crucial.
That's a great idea, and we do, so I don't know, volunteers / succession.
Yeah,
It's
well,
almost good like you can tie those two together.
And I don't know that you necessarily want to call it succession. You can talk about the gaps that you have, but since it is an appointed thing, I mean, I don't care, but some people...
That
I think-
sort of fits your,
Yeah.
talking about Main Street. That's-
Yeah.
You want to get a Main Street board, those kind of things.
Could that be, we can even talk about that when we finally get to our retreat again.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Something that you really want to visit once a year.
So, Monica, I see you running in, you're gonna talk with Alice and
Yeah.
find out about Stephanie's availability.
And the other thing is that if it's a big thing, I mean, I think asking the chair, like,
Anybody else want anything? I know it's secret for
you're just such a distraction.
He is. He's like a little kid today.
It's been a long day.
There's like when, Dave, you've had a request, just copying me so that I can, because if I get to see it, then I can tell if she's been getting overwhelmed. But right now, I think that's okay. We may have to shift it in the future, but it becomes, there's no reason why there can't be direct contact if you need something like that. But I'll talk to Alice and take that.
Well, yeah, and the degree to reserving a room is different than preparing a marketing analysis on something
Yeah.
else, it takes.
It's more interesting.
So,
But if you have that framework of communication, like if I email a question to Steve Asenbrack, he answers me and copies Kay and Betty because she's the liaison. So then everybody's always knowing what's going on in their department, so you don't ever have that gap.
That's good, then you can shoot back, hey, we're doing something different or whatever, yeah. So are you guys good with kind of moving from here? And I'll kind of keep developing.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be kind of a working process.
Yeah.
We continue to evolve and shift a little bit.
We're starting to see where we have the opportunity to make an impact, and that's going to affect how this works. And it's different, when I looked at a lot of the different DDAs, a lot of them have CVB and RVA type of activities inside the DDA. And we don't. And so we can really emphasize where we're focusing right now. So that's really like that. How you focus, contrary to what you might think. Okay, the next item I inserted is the, I said engagement of town planners. It's really where we are on the transportation project. The one thing I wanted to bring up was that I think we need to start that process, and I know all the conversations have not occurred. Maybe we should sorry, I have some notes here. I'd like to go ahead and start kind of negotiating and talking with them as far as getting that scope really nailed down. While you guys wrap up, I think your group is really wrapping up, speaking to the folks with Rotary.
I can give an update if you want.
Okay,
if
do
you're ready
that.
for that. Yeah, I had one meeting with two of the past presidents who are the primary chairman of the Memorial Day celebration. And so we had one meeting to introduce, and then Nancy was you, Nancy, that helped me with the drawing? No. I can't remember who did help me with that. Anyway, we looked at where the War Memorial was, where the intersection plane currently is. I asked for that intersection to move back as far away from the memorial as possible and still allow the transportation to function and so forth. We really only moved back about 20 feet. So the intersection edge is still within 30 feet of the memorial. It's pretty close.
Do they want it to stay there?
Well, yeah, that's where I had to start. I had to start at the bricks that are around it, the emotion of that. And so they're starting with the memorial staying in place. Now I can see very quickly why. I'm not sure if part of it is that the memorial is there and its location is emotionally important to those that designed it and placed it there. But I also quickly could see that Dave, McCleary and Young, both the guys who run this thing, were going, where am I going to put the this and where am I going to put the that? And they were into logistics very quickly. And so it wasn't as much emotion as it was, well, if you move it, how am I going to make everything work? That was where I could see they were going to. So, so anyway, once I got the drawing to them, they looked at it. We concluded that the next step was for me to get Dave and a couple of the veterans who were part of the original design group to participate in the walk of the grounds. Okay. And I've been pushing for 10 days to get an answer. I just called them on the way over right now. Still haven't got an answer. So, but I would hope maybe by next week I can walk the grounds, and Nancy, if we had you involved or whoever from the city, and I know the mayor wanted to be involved, and whether Steve was out there, but I'll get your guidance on who from the city ought to be represented there. But the idea being that in order to look at options, and there are some options, it's a whole lot easier to be standing on the ground than it is trying to look at.
Are these Rotary veterans or Roswell veterans?
They were just Roswell veterans.
Just Roswell veterans.
Yeah. And Rotary is really the
right.
Keeper of the Memorial Day celebration.
Right.
And so I'm trying to go to them first because I know them. I can be candid and straightforward, and they'll be straightforward with me. And I've asked them to reach out sort of to another round. I'm saying I don't want 22 guys out there. Mm-hmm. Find 2 or 3 more that are vested in this, and you help me start the dialogue. And so we think being on the grounds is the next step.
What would you think about having one of the planners there to hear what their priorities are?
Yeah, that can certainly work.
Because I totally understand what they're thinking, but if they don't, and particularly if they're not visual people, as far as understanding where they might end up with a better, where it is maybe the best place. I'm not saying
right now, I'm not so much designing as trying bonding, for lack of a better phrase, in terms of that and generating ideas and so forth. But the idea being that we need to listen first
Absolutely.
In terms of what the options are, and then present some options and go from there. So I think it will lead to a design session that will have that group and the arts group and the key stakeholders and so forth. So, so I think that's coming. I don't think I need to slow down the track.
Oh, no, I'm not
ready
going
for
to slow
the-
down. I'm kind of talking about speeding. Yeah, slowing down is not my vocabulary.
Yeah, so
But if we brought in them, if that would help for them to hear at this point.
It will. I
would-
think one meeting on the grounds
Without
them,
Okay.
and then we'll go into design, from there. So.
Is Zach Henderson involved, or has anyone thought about talking with him yet?
His name's on the list. I'm sort of asking for Dave Young and Dave McCleary to give me sort of guidance on who that group ought to be. They're most connected.
But I'm pretty good friends with him.
Are you?
If we needed to have a quiet conversation, that at some point he might get involved, and it'd be good to know where he was going to fall on.
Right.
He'll tell you. But I'd get a little, if you're ground truthing it and getting consensus, I'd proceed with that before you brought him in.
Yeah, I'm kind of building my, a base of people I can.
Take your small steps.
Yeah. Sure.
Are you talking about leaving where it is or moving it?
Well, right now I'm talking about what their views are and what some options might be to open up some thoughts of moving it.
Have you seen any of the drawings for it being moved over towards Smith?
Yeah, yes, yeah. That's a planning aspect that I'm not through the emotional aspect yet to get to that. So I think the reality of it is there is going to be a collision between its location at intersection. Okay, it can stay there, but you know what? It's going to be noisy as can be, and everything you wanted it to be is not going to be that way anymore. I think there's going to be some conclusions that we can put it in a place that is respectful, can be quiet at times, has the right stage set up, works out the logistics, but it isn't saying, here's the answer.
It's an event, as much as anything, what I'm hearing today is, as much as anything, it's an events planning.
Yes.
And-
That's
and
part
that-
of it.
and-
That's a
and-
big part of it, but I think what would be helpful when you're standing on the grounds is to see that it's not that quiet anymore now.
Right, yeah.
And that's, if you're talking about actually pulling it, then I know, we're nowhere near there yet.
Right.
We've definitely got to start in the
Right.
teeny spaces, but.
It's inching along, and I think it'll move. As soon as I get this next meeting, it'll start to pick up some pace and all, so. But right now, really, the ball's in their court. I've asked them 2 times in the last week to
Has
give me a date.
transportation dropped Clyde's idea of doing it in the circle there?
No, I think it's all out
It's
there.
all
It's just, we're just
open
not there
potential.
yet.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to plop it on a map until we've
So,
had these discussions.
Just remember, from the event standpoint, they have to move from, okay, if I move somewhere else, I got 100 logistical items to deal with. And this is, what, the 15th year or something? I mean, it's like clockwork now. So the clock's going to get broken, and everything's got to be refigured out in terms of an event. So that's a big aspect that, it's going to...
Can I ask you a question on this? Is transportation, are they still working on different options now? Because we haven't heard that from them, but are they exploring on...
what the grounds would look like?
No, on just even the,
I assume that they would kind of pause with what they had while we do this part.
There have been several renditions of it. I don't know if you've seen
In the last, 2 weeks, or in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think Clyde's drawing stuff all the time.
Yeah, but there's been nothing that's come.
What are they working on without any
before.
input?
Yeah, I think, the mayor throws stuff to them and they do, but I think
Okay.
the
There is
bigger
input.
effort is, the council direction was hang tight until you guys get a chance to
Yeah.
look at that side of
Well, they
it.
modeled
But I
each-
think they're
each
always,
plan,
yeah, they're always looking to tweak and
If it
improve.
doesn't look like it would work, then they try something else.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're always cooking up something
Tinkering.
over there.
Is it tinkering? Maybe that's what the
You
word
know, they
is.
have to do the AM and PM traffic flows and all that stuff.
Oh, but still working substantially off the last,
The cross, yeah.
the cross. Yeah, we haven't come up with a whole new one.
No, but it's slightly different inputs, egress and egress from
Okay, well,
Elizabeth
that's-
Way and Camp Street, utilizing the most a little more, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
But basically-
but fundamentally, we haven't come up
Not
with a new
big
square
differences,
design
no.
or something. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
the design phase to start generating things for them to look at? And just see if they're interested?
I mean, I think it's, the way I picture that is that they're going to be more, kind of input as we go. Because unless you're talking about a specific project, and the minute you start talking about a specific project, my feeling is you're going to be all over the board. In other words, you've got groups that very much are against having a, what do you want to call it, what's the name of the big theater that they had up there in Greenville?
Peace Center.
Yeah, the Peace Center, that don't want to have something like that. And there's, the idea of having the public art, they were just in the process of forming a subcommittee for that. And supposedly totally outside of anything that we were, bringing up in front of them. But clearly, when that gets formed, it's going to be a big, good connection to have, so that they can be thinking about, different areas, with any design that would be appropriate for that. So I guess I'm kind of a little bit up in the air as to where, where they fit in, other than the public art aspect.
So they didn't give you any programming elements, like we want an amphitheater that holds
No.
200 or...
But they do have a very extensive strategic plan
That
that's
we can read, yeah.
And we just need to look at
It's in your
it. I would suggest you look at that, because it's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's pretty detailed.
We know
Yeah,
what...
but again, it gets down to the specific projects, that if we want to start talking about some aspect of that, then clearly, but as far as just showing them this road and,
Well, I think when we get into design, that's probably where, they're going to have their wish list of things that you start out with a funnel this big, and everybody puts everything in they want, and you start...
I think that's where we are, that's the thing, is that
Yeah.
the thing, if we stall, we need to get at least something on the paper starting, and I was kind of looking at strategic, and you guys are the ones I'm worried, I want to make sure we don't overstep.
Yeah, but I'm not measuring what I'm trying to do in months. I'm trying to get it done in weeks.
Yeah.
Here, so
Um,
some pace.
But if we had some programming things, and we could go back, and they said, gee, I want this, kind of like what you're talking about, going into the funnel, exactly. And then at least we can start, when we sit down with the designers, we can say, these are things we'd love to see, if you can fit them in. Otherwise, they're going to, ideas,
Yeah, we probably need to reach out again and have more of a specific, agenda that, we're looking for input of, in a perfect world, what would you guys want?
Oh, and we could talk to get Alex and Lou to read that, be reading that now. It's just, you need to be up to speed on that lane.
It's an important element. I think there's things we can benefit from the city.
Again, when we met with two of the board members from the yards, they kept emphasizing several times, no, don't take our comments as
the board, right.
board's comments, because we have dissension among ourselves. And so, they were very. They also, I thought, made it. I don't know if they did it specifically, or I got the implication that they felt their role as board members is to promote the arts in general in the city of Roswell, and not just to have performances. They're talking about outreach programs, they're talking about public art, they're talking about...
They're big on artist spaces, and I've...
Right, which is where I picked up very, very specific, that, there was a comment made that, we're not looking for a peace center. So I think, from a unified standpoint, the best place for Alex and, Lou to start would be the document.
Okay.
Because that's something that, that they have painstakingly gone through all kinds of gyrations to create that.
Yeah.
And again, you start talking to individuals, you're going to get their agendas. And, it's not going to be as all-encompassing.
Rotary doesn't have anything on their Memorial Day events or anything like that, or I'm sure these guys have attended that. I just wondering, is there anything we can make sure that they...
Just the Memorial Day celebration, which is a matter of record, and probably, I don't know if it's on the city website or...
I'm sure they've seen that, I'm
So,
events.
nothing from Rotary, though. It's-
But there,
We just happen to kind of man it with the city.
Well, when you talk to the arts group, you have the CAB, which is certainly the overarching group, but you also have 20-something nonprofits in the city that don't necessarily tie to them on everything, and our hope is that that will eventually be the case, because I do think this board is more into the big arts picture than maybe in the past. And I think if you had the question to some of these like GET and Talbot Yilmaz and some of these other places that aren't necessarily getting spoken for at the board level, and that plan is very specific to that building.
Right.
So if you can get them out of the framework of, if you could do anything, say we leveled that building tomorrow, what would you like to see? And kind of think.
Well, Anita
bigger
has said
picture.
that she wanted to be involved, totally outside of the board. So
Who did,
that's
I'm sorry?
Anita
Anita
Farley.
Farley.
So, I mean, clearly, yeah, it's like, do we become kind of the superset of arts groups, even above the arts board, which is kind of a weird position, but it's starting to sound like that's what needs to happen. I don't know. I mean, this could get really, really big and not necessarily have a whole lot of direction to it.
But I imagine you get some similarities. I think there's not a huge broad, either. I mean, I think most people will tell you this is an auditorium, it's not a theater. Do we need a theater? Do we want a theater? How big would you have it? Do you need a conference center? Would you add, just some general stuff would probably.
Is that necessarily even, phase one of this project?
How do we sustain it, because they never carry their own weight,
And I mean, I'm looking, personally, the low-hanging fruit to me is, sticking a turtle on some public space or something, I mean, getting some public art. I mean, because, where in Roswell is there public art? Is there any public art in Roswell?
Well, we don't have a public art policy except in Groveway.
The turtle.
Well, there you go.
Right
That's
there.
it.
That's actually illegal, but yeah.
That's it.
The
And
turtle.
it's especially illegal with the theme of the turtle, but
Right.
anyway.
Well, the Roswell Club's getting ready to do a turtles thing.
Is it owls today?
And there's owls or something,
Owls.
something different, but
I
yeah.
don't know.
Owls, turtles.
I need a towel to keep my turtle
That's
going.
cool. It's kind of got the education kind of bend to it.
No, but I'm just saying that the low-hanging fruit, to get something tangible, we're looking to have something physical and out, out there. And, we still may have development sites clearly around this new design, but I don't think that's the first step, is figuring out what's going to go on them.
There's another stakeholder. If there's talk about moving anything onto Smith Plantation's property, the people who are involved with Smith, the docents and the staff and the boosters or whatever their organization is.
There's no
they're-
organization.
I thought that there was one. at
No, it
Smith.
was dissolved.
It dissolved, okay.
Yes.
So it's just
Well,
a city
there's-
asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the simplest of the houses to mess with. Let's put it that way. There's no Friends of Smith.
But we need to deal with the Historical Society or somebody. The point is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's the garden club.
Yeah, there's a director. I mean, there are people there.
They're people, but there's not a 30-year outside group that has a ball or
Yeah.
anything.
I would tell you, based on all this conversation, there's a project plan to be put together here, because we're sort of bouncing with the ping pong ball here, kind of all over. And I know we've sort of set up our 4 major categories, but there's a plan that has to be put together that says, here are the stakeholders, here are the steps, here's the timing, here's the schedule, here's the blah. I mean, of which none of us have the amount of time. I mean, that's a pretty significant plan that's got to be put together. At this point, I'll tell you, because if we don't get our arms around that, I just got a call from the homeowner association president of the townhomes behind Canton Street, who wants to have, and I know him because he's a running buddy from way back when. So we're having coffee on Thursday so he can bend my ear about the homeowner association's view of all this stuff. It's a very informal meeting. We're just having coffee, and he's got another guy there. But there's a bunch of those sort of scenarios out there.
And they're not as informal as they would appear. They've met with a lot of us already with their specific agenda.
Randy, you're talking about Randy, and okay. Yeah, so, so I'm just saying, we could go down the list and say, there's 20 stakeholder groups of various, some of which we're not even thinking of right now.
Everybody
Who are
has
part
an
of this
agenda.
planning, and if we don't get our arms around this thing, number one, it's going to drag on forever, and number two is we're going to miss somebody, and which is going to make you have to start over again and again, so.
Well, I think if you, I guess one of my thoughts, that y'all have been in this part of it a little, I mean, I do think it's important to get stakeholder input. But it's also, if we try to please everybody all the time, before we even get anything started sketched up. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of it, but I also don't want to, if you wait till you get everybody included, before we have something that we can say, you know what, that they don't like this or they don't like that. I mean, if you get people having thoughts on it, as in, I don't like it, what are they punching at? I mean, do we really, what we have right now is the transportation.
Yeah, and all I'm
plan.
saying is make a conscious decision about that. We want to listen to this group and this group. We'll hear you, but, I mean, we got to have a plan, that's all I'm saying, is that we started with a Dewani plan, then we went to a big X, and, and now we're starting to reach out, and we're doing what we can as volunteers and all that, I recognize that, but at some point, this is where we begin to think about staff, and, is there a project manager on this thing, and who is the project manager for it, and is that somebody we can dedicate some amount of time to every week, managing a plan, building the plan, organizing, and so forth, because, we do this when we can fill in, and it's, it doesn't pace itself with the manner in which we're trying to do it. It's not a fault of ours, it's just the reality. And so how we solve that issue is we can go along the stand of getting some town planners to start planning, but those guys are not project planners. They're design planners. If we don't have a project manager sit along with that, we could be wasting that money, very quickly, if we don't have a project manager sitting next to the designers. Who is on pace of this, has some amount of time every week that they're focused. So I just throw that out to not necessarily solve today, but recognize that if we're going to let this thing really move, that part of project management's got to be at the table. And it has to be, being driven, not just gathering.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a way to couple Stephanie's role with us, with like Rob Del Ross or whoever's taking the lead in transportation, to accomplish that? And that way, at the very least, in the long run, we don't run into each other, and it looks like we're coordinating, which we are. I'm saying that facetiously. I didn't mean it to sound that way. That would be a way, and I think it could help prevent some of the people running over each other, like the example that you just gave.
Similar to what we're doing with Historic Gateway.
Exactly.
And,
That's a real good. We can come up with a few things, and then public domain, private domain, arts, and then the war memorial of what we need to do. We do need our to-dos every time.
Absolutely.
And this last month has been particularly challenging with having so many DDA meetings for all of us. I don't know how Monica can't be doing much with her kids right now, but
business is like, I don't know about that.
But I mean, so we could start some of this, and at the very least, maybe get the framework of what you're talking about written down. I mean, even just using a big chart.
Isn't Alex's side of that, I mean, I don't know if that would make sense, but would there be someone that we could even hire for a season? You know what I mean? For the next 3 months, it's a possibility too.
Yeah, I mean, there's, whether we're able to tap into city resources or whether we have to go outside for a project manager type person who could do this on a part-time basis. I don't think it's not a full-time deal, but it is some
It's a
weekly
3 months.
focus, and it's
It's
organized. Yeah,
Right.
it's got a beginning, it's got an end, and it's got a process. And we may have to take from our allowance of the designer money we got approved.
Yeah,
Some portion of
absolutely.
that has to go to management.
But I mean, that's why it's not 30.
We could talk to Alex, they sometimes have project managers inside
That's
the
true.
larger architectural firms.
That's Yeah.
But I mean, they got to understand what we mean by project
What we
management.
want, yeah.
You know, developer-type project management, not architecture-type project management.
You probably have a bunch.
Yes,
Well,
that's a,
not per se, and I probably couldn't do it anyway through my firm. I was trying to think of, I think we ought to, I mean, to the extent that Stephanie's available, I would love to engage her on this. If we think it's going to be more than what she can commit from the city standpoint, I'll think about it. I think that we could come up with somebody. And some of the people we could come up with would be, would be quite helpful, could fill in for some of the meetings and stuff.
You remember Kirby Glaze, he does some of this stuff. Some of
Oh,
his
okay.
associates do.
yeah, really?
Yeah. I mean, that's public-private management, 3 PMs, the name of it is like Public-Private Partnership Management, Inc., or something like that. They do everything from structuring the finance, He's done several hotel projects, I know, like downtown hotels.
This is just to keep this working. I mean, one of my thoughts was, when I did look at is engaging the planners, was one of the requirements would be a weekly meeting. Just none of this go into a dark hole and come back and when you're done. I mean, that we set up the staging and that we do it. I mean, I was just taking a stab at the stages, that they wouldn't go, that it would be that immediate area, the intersection and the immediately adjacent properties in the first phase. And we'd all agree on that before they took it into a little bit larger area. So, and I had that just taking a stab that we'd have a point at $10,000 of design expenditure. They had to stop before we all came back and said, you may be seeing it, a few of us on a small committee going to see it on a regular basis, but at that point, we would stop. And, hello. All right. Welcome.
Just to gather that thought real quick, because I know we're fixing to jump in here. That was like where you're basically doing concept, schematic.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of, and it could be that we could work this along that angle on the work plan, because there's going to be certain things. And then the other was schematic, or you're getting to a master plan, right?
Right, but I was even doing it like in a tight area, because if
Well,
we
think
have
about
any
labels.
changes.
Think about labels that
Yep.
we might want to give to that. We can work it across the matrix on his work plan on some of this stuff.
Perfect. Do you have a format you'd like to work with?
Yeah.
Would you share?
Something we can.
That was a great place to start.
You don't have to listen to Rich Stippolito. You can just be sketching the work plan.
Just work on it.
I'll say, I think the councilman would appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have Rich, Councilman Ippolito, here to speak with us, and it is about a potential catalyst project and the due diligence phase. We are going to need to go into executive session. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, and we will.
Thanks for the
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So I need a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session for the purpose of discussing real estate acquisition.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I have a technical question. I'm just new at this.
Well, I know what the first attorney did.
The first
Our
attorney.
first attorney made Nancy leave.
The second one told me not to, so what do I?
But we didn't hire though for the first one, so.
We didn't keep him. We
didn't keep him.
Well, that's what we're wondering. Yeah, I guess.
It's up to you. We can come or go. I'm fine either way.
No,
You need Rich.
I think
Yeah.
as long as there's
Yeah,
Not
I'm-
four of us were
I mean,
okay.
personally,
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't care.
I think it's the general public,
Four of us
we
is kinda weird.
we're concerned with things leaking out.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
What he said is just people who have an interest in the matter at hand.
Okay, well, all three would have an interest, in my opinion.
Is Betty aware of this project?
All right, Rich has the floor.
Well, I met with John Lundeen and his tenant.
Yeah.
See y'all later. See you guys.
Well, I
See,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Appreciate it, Rich.
Oh, you're welcome. See you, buddy.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate your expertise and the ability to talk with the developer on a level we can't.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
See you.
Hey, thank you so much. Would you be available tomorrow, maybe?
Not 10 to about 5 straight, so.
Did everybody have a chance to look at this?
Mhm.
Do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes from last week of September 27th?
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes from when?
September 27th.
September 27th.
All in favor?
Aye.
100%.
I'll
Okay.
Second, aye.
Second.
I think we got that. All right, sorry, flipping out here. All right. Let's pass that over to her. And we're not, you know what, we just,
There's another one.
I only see one. Only one got back to me. One got back to me.
There was two
There were
paper
two.
clipped together.
When I
Yeah.
first had them, there was two. Did I mess?
Somebody who left brought them with them. I don't know. Well, I guess you
Hey,
put that off
this is
for the
Charles.
meeting then.
What?
I don't know. Unless everybody saw them and approved.
I don't know.
I think everybody saw them because we passed it around.
Well, I didn't see the second one because I turned it upside down so I wouldn't see it. So it was, I was talking to Selena and that came through. But did everybody else see two?
I saw two.
Did you leave them?
I'm going to leave.
Hold on. Usually it's me trying to, all right, well, we're just going to stop at that point. Then we've got public relations and custodian of the records. Stephanie, would you be custodian of the records for now? Okay.
You look like a custodian of the record.
All right.
Closed out the program.
We don't have a quorum and I need to close.
He didn't leave, he just stepped out.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's still there.
I'd like to move to adjourn our meeting. Would you move to adjourn?
I moved to it, well, don't we have to wait for him to come in?
Yeah. Hey, Ralph, what do you?
What?
We're in a little light here.
Okay, is,
Charles is still here.
I noticed you're on the 6th.
Yeah, he's traveling. He's been great.
Okay.
We've, he's traveling and I've got a whole thing of when his timeframes are so we could bring him into this, because we're gonna need him on the finance.
Okay, so everything's good?
It's good.
All right.
Who's out? Dave?
Charles.
Charles.
I think he just went to use the phone.
Am I marking the wrong tree? I'm trying to, I just thought if we don't keep this moving.
Well, I mean, I think it's in their court right now. I mean, I really think that if they don't get back to us with something substantial, thing in the matter, because we can't do it.
Yeah, I
Call you
get
right
it.
back? I'll call. Okay, I'll do that, thank you. I apologize, my mother just got put in the hospital, so.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a legitimate excuse under any
Yes,
circumstance.
absolutely.
You pull the moms in the hospital. I move we close.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Amen. And I'm gone. See y'all next week.
Goodbye. The wedding, yeah. Fantastic.